The African Academy of Languages, Acalan, the African Union's specialized language agency, organized a consultative meeting for the promotion of Kiswahili as a language of wider communication in Africa. According to Acalan, this move would strengthen the African identity and linguistically provide Africa a place on the world stage. The adoption of Kiswahili, a Bantu language with terms from Arabic and other Bantu languages spoken either as a mother tongue or as a fluent second language, mainly on the east coast of Africa, as an official language of the African Union alongside English, French, Portuguese and Arabic, is part of the political will and efforts of our leaders to enable Africa to use African languages in Africa's development. This had been manifested in the Charter Article 29 of the OAU and subsequently in the Constitutive Act Article 25 of African Union. One of the most important developments in the trajectory of African languages was when Kiswahili was adopted by the African Union. Also, the use of Kiswahili in the school curriculum of many African Union member states, including Gabon, Ghana and South Africa, lends credence to the great potential of the language as a factor in the quest by Africans to speak with one voice if effectively promoted as a language of wider communication. Nevertheless, Kiswahili will be very crucial to the empowerment and active participation of the African people in their own development. Acalan, as the African Union's specialized institution mandated to develop and promote African languages in partnership with former colonial languages, organized the consultative meeting with the national language structures, Kiswahili language commissions, specialists and stakeholders engaged in the development and promotion of Kiswahili as a language of wider communication in Africa. The consultative meeting took place from June 26 to 28 in Dar es Salaam, United Republic of Tanzania. Participants at the meeting were experts and specialists of the Kiswahili language, representatives of Acalan's national structures in the member states in which Kiswahili is spoken, members of Acalan's Kiswahili Vehicular Cross-Border Language Commission, the Executive Secretary of the East African Kiswahili Commission, independent experts and specialists of Kiswahili, the head of UNESCO office in the United Republic of Tanzania, representing the director of the UNESCO regional office in Kenya, regional and international organizations dealing with promotion of culture and languages, and the executive secretary and members of the Acalan Secretariat. At the event, Professors Fikemi Elisike Senkoro and Herman Batibo gave their presentations on thinking together about linguistic diversity and the role of Kiswahili in African education, and Kiswahili as a language of wider communication in Africa, challenges and perspectives, respectively.
The choice we're making here to promote and have Kiswahili recognized as a language of wider communication in Africa is that Kiswahili is a language that has no ethnic link. Nobody would stand up and say, I am Kiswahili. A Mandingo, speaking about the Mandingo language, a Mandingo would say, this is my language, I'm a Mandingo. A Yoruba, a Wolof, a Setswana, a Chinyanja, and so on. But Kiswahili has no ethnic link. This is why the African Academy of Languages thinks that reasonably that Kiswahili can be used as a language of wider communication in Africa, as a language of integration, as a language of development, as a language of unity, as a language of cooperation, as a language of solidarity, because it belongs to all Africa. Even if it belongs to no one, it belongs to all Africa. Africa is a rich continent, linguistically, a very diverse continent. All peoples try to identify a common language that they would use as a factor of their development, their integration. We take an example of China. You have more than about 50 languages in China. What they have chosen, this what we call Mandarin, that everybody calls Chinese today, to be a common language of China. Well, that doesn't mean that the languages that are in China are relegated. People speak, they use these languages, they learn these languages, they learn economics, chemistry, biology, and etc. in these languages. So Africa can use Kiswahili as a language of wider communication while developing other languages.
Acalan working structures, experts and institutional partners also made their presentations on the status of Kiswahili in their respective domains and countries thus.
This consultative meeting should be about recognizing Kiswahili as not just a language of wider communication, in my view, as the language of communication of the sub-region, if not of the continent. I think this should be taken note of very seriously. We're not promoting. Kiswahili has already promoted itself as a language of communication of Eastern and Central Africa. We have to do a lot more to do the same, to raise the level of other languages in Africa.
I feel very happy to be here amongst academics that deal with one of the most important languages in Africa, Kiswahili language. We all know that if we look at our individual countries, the landscape in terms of language is very complicated. We have more than 130 languages in Tanzania. You will have a similar situation in my own country, Mozambique, and in other countries that are represented here. So the use of those languages as vehicles of instruction becomes difficult in those countries. That is why we believe that not promoting, Mr. Chairman, but recognizing Kiswahili as a common language of use in the African context could greatly contribute to the integration of various countries in Africa and also to the development of the economy of Africa in the context of the Agenda 2063. Mr. Chairman, I want to assure you, you can count with UNESCO support in the way I thank you.
The East African community demonstrates its commitment to ensuring that Kiswahili is promoted and recognized as a language of wider communication. It is for this reason that the EAC Treaty, Article 137, recognizes the need to develop and use Kiswahili as a language of wider communication for purposes of achieving regional integration and sustainable development.
Dr. Ernesta Mosha, Director, Institute of Kiswahili Studies, Acalan National Structure, United Republic of Tanzania. Professor Kimani Njogu, member of Acalan Kiswahili Vehicular Cross-Border Language Commission, Republic of Kenya. Dr. James Vuningoma, Executive Secretary, Rwanda Academy of Languages and Culture, Acalan National Structure, Republic of Rwanda. Ms. Ruth Muguta, Principal Social Development Officer, Ministry of Labor, Gender and Social Development. Professor Timothy Mukash Khalil, Director General of the Observatory Languages, Democratic Republic of Congo. Ms. Soholi Rahengosan, Member of the Acalan Kiswahili Cross-Border Language Commission, Republic of Madagascar. Mr. Abdallah Nuruddin, Director, National Center for Documentation and Scientific Research, Comoros. Professor Lothair Nyonkunu, member of the Acalan Kiswahili Vehicular Cross-Border Language Commission, Republic of Burundi; Professor Kenneth Inyami Simala, Executive Secretary, East African Community Kiswahili Commission; Professor John Kiango, Coordinator, Acalan Kiswahili Vehicular Cross-Border Language Commission; Professor Leonard Mwaka, President, the Global Association of Kiswahili Promotion. The aforementioned all made presentations. Recommendations made by participants include adopting the Dar es Salaam Framework of Action for Acalan and Kakama as specialized language agencies of the AU and the EAC, developing national language policies according to the Language Plan of Action for Africa, investing in scientific research on Kiswahili to develop capacity in teaching all disciplines in Kiswahili, ensuring political will to embrace African languages and culture, urging national broadcasters and other media practitioners to come up with programs that promote Kiswahili on a wider basis, using creativity to promote Kiswahili through collaborations of different categories of artists across Africa, spearheading the change of mindsets towards African languages and culture, using available resources to allocate budgets for the development of Kiswahili and other African languages, promoting Kiswahili alongside other African languages in the context of multilingualism and for effective communication in Africa, sharing resources through the exchange of teachers and learning materials, and involving women and the youth in the Kiswahili promotion strategies. Also, the Acalan Secretariat and its national structures should ensure linguists and writers come up with multilingual African language dictionaries that have Kiswahili as components. Engaging researchers on conducting research at 3 levels, namely mother tongue, second and third with Kiswahili inclusive, engaging experts and academia in publication, and so on. The EAC and Kiswahili commissions are expected to collaborate with Acalan and UNESCO on the use of ICT in language teaching and learning, start the standardization campaign for Kiswahili, and promote it beyond the East African community.
We came up with a document we call the Dar es Salaam Framework for Action. This Dar es Salaam Framework for Action is really a document calling African leaders, African member states of the African Union to action. Which action? To start recognizing Kiswahili as a language of wider communication, to start promoting Kiswahili with the African Academy of Languages and the African Union. This framework will be disseminated, will be taken to the ministers of culture, youth, and sport, and even the ministers of education, to be validated and then move to the assembly, the heads of state and government of the member states, the conference of heads of state, the summit of the African Union, to be validated, to be adopted, and then Acalan could start working that. We are going to breed Kiswahili teachers locally. We will send Kiswahili teachers to member states to teach future Kiswahili teachers, local ones. And these are going to be responsible for teaching Kiswahili, and the Kiswahili has to be introduced in the education system.
The Working Committee later presented their document entitled the Dar es Salaam Framework for Action. This is a desire that can be realized through collaboration and partnership of African Union and member states, supported by cooperation with regional and international agencies and institutions, individuals, and groups of language interest groups.